Hi everyone. So I just wanted to make this video to talk about the things that I later on ended up finding out on my own, and it's just things I really wish people would have told me before getting my CDL. Not because I wouldn't have gotten it, but because it would have helped me mentally prepare for the things that were to come. And just a little quick background of me. I currently have a Class B CDL. I have my hazmat and tankers endorsement, as well as my passengers endorsement. I did not go for my Class A. The reason why is because I'm not planning on making this a long-term career. I just want something where I can make some pretty decent money, where I can come home every night. I'm not saying that you can't come home every night with a Class A. It's a little bit harder. But the Class B was just easier for me to pass as well. All right, so we'll get into more in depth on the testing and all the other things you need to do to get it and the things that come after. So please don't skip this video. I'm pretty sure you will benefit from this. And if you're someone that already has your CDL and you're watching this video just for fun, I guess, you'll understand. And I'm pretty sure you can agree with some of the things I'm going to be talking about today. So with that being said, let's begin. Alright, so first things first, I want to quickly just talk about the jobs in general before I get into the whole process of getting your CDL. And it's very important. Ladies and gents, when looking for jobs as a new CDL driver, right? You just got your license, you're fresh out of the school, you're excited, thank God, right? The thing is, you're not going to get all the nice, easy, fancy jobs that are out there, no matter what endorsements you have. And the reason being is because a lot of the jobs require, not all the time, but a lot of them do require you have experience. And the reason is because it's sometimes hard to get approved by their insurance to cover you, especially once they find out that you're brand new. Some companies are willing to take the risk, some aren't. It just depends on which company it is. I know that you are more than likely going to get hired for like cement truck driving, and those are the people that like have like the concrete and the rolling barrels like for Cemex and stuff like that. The thing is those jobs are very, 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 very tough. The schedules are crazy, and it's not like that with all the plants, but from everyone that I've spoken to, they all tell me the same things, and it can be pretty dangerous. So definitely do some research on those types of jobs. And not only that, guys, if a company is willing to hire you, even though you don't have any experience, and they were like, yeah, we'll do our best, whatever, this and that, it's probably because they have a high turnover rate. And you'll probably end up realizing that once you actually start working with the companies. It was like that for me. But thankfully, the company that did hire me, I'm still with them. I have tried other companies as the years go by, but since this one is local and they changed a lot of the things that I was having issues with at the time, and so it's just a lot better. But it's not like that with all the other companies, so you're gonna have to thug it out for a while. If you don't find a company that you like, just find one that is as close to, I guess, comfortable as can be until you gain that experience and you're able to get something else. There are a lot of jobs that do pay well even with a Class B, but you're competing with a lot of people that they say used to be Class A drivers. Now they just want a job that's more local, more close to their home, and a lot of those companies are more than likely going to hire those people with Class A licenses and with more experience, just because it's probably a little cheaper for them to hire because of their insurance. So just keep that in mind when looking for jobs. But that doesn't mean you should get discouraged. There is someone hiring, and you never know, you might get lucky and get a pretty decent job even though you have a Class B license. Okay, so always keep that in mind. Okay, so let's talk about the written test itself for getting your CDL. Now, I need you to understand, just because you have a permit or a CDL permit, that doesn't mean you're going to be able to get hired on for a job. Some jobs might allow it, I don't know, but just keep in mind that permit is usually good to start the training for your actual CDL license. Now, I will link in the description the website that I used to pass my tests. It's actually a pretty good website. That's how I use to pass all my endorsements. And I don't know what it's like for your state. I live in Florida, but just make sure you check the state guidelines for what it is that's required to be passed for your written tests at the DMV, and also check what you need to take in order to take said tests. It just depends on what your state requires, so check that out. And this will kind of, I guess, lead on to the next part of the actual CDL training that you need to take after you pass all your written tests at the DMV. Please, 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 unless you're someone that somehow has able to gain experience driving CDL vehicles, like Class A or Class B vehicles, unless you already have that kind of training, then you can go ahead and take those, get your CDL in 1 week training programs. But if you have absolutely no experience whatsoever, please, 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 please do yourself the favor of not going there. Go to the ones that offer CDL training at your pace, and even that have payment plans. Some programs offer payment plans, and some are pretty cheap. Call around as much as possible. You'll be so surprised how much of a variation there is in pricing and in payment plans. The one that I went to in Florida, I believe it was called First Class CDL or First Class Trucking. It was in Tampa. That guy was amazing. I can't remember his name. I really wish I could remember his name, but he helped me out so much at the time. I mean, he really did do me a favor by working with me. He wasn't pushing me in terms of, hey, you got to get it done by the end of the week. You got to do this. You got to do that. Like, he was very patient with me. Thank God. I thank God for that guy. But do not take those under 1 week classes. And the reason being is because if you don't pass the test the first time, the state test with the instructor, a lot of the times you'll have to pay for that exam out of pocket to do it again. The first time they usually cover it, which you should ask too. Ask if the program covers the first state exam. So usually the first time they cover it, and if you fail it, you're gonna have to do it again. And another problem that I also noticed, because I actually did that the first time trying to get my CDL, not with the first class guy. I went to them afterwards because I just couldn't do it with the first program, which was a waste of money. I can't believe I did that. I remember seeing a guy that was there for, I think, 3 weeks, and he was paying even more just so they would leave him there. And I think at the end, the last time I was there, they ended up kicking him out of the program because he just couldn't cut it. And so he basically ended up spending all that money for nothing, and it was expensive too. So at the end of the day, you'll still end up having to take your time regardless. So please, guys, take your time. Find a program that offers payment plans that's cheap, and something that's, that they'll work with you. And if as long as the instructors are willing to put in that one-on-one with you, definitely do it. The exam, the final text exam itself, if you're doing a Class B, it's super easy. It's actually really easy. The Class A ones are a little bit harder, but if you are someone that's planning on making a full-on career with a Class A, then definitely go ahead, do it. Do what you must. For me, I just stayed with the Class B, and I'm not planning on getting a Class A at all. But usually the instructors are pretty cool. Just make sure you remember all your pre-trip and post-trip stuff. Do what you have to do to study. I know it's going to seem like a lot because you do have to remember a lot of things and a lot of the process. But you can also look up some YouTube videos to try to sort of guide you through them. That's what I did. When I got home, I would just listen to the YouTube videos over and over and over again, and somehow I was able to memorize all of it, if not most of it, and I passed with a really good grade. So definitely study up on it. And again, please don't take those 1 week program CDL training things, okay? And like I said, call around. Everything's different with every different school, okay? All right, so I want to talk about in this next section about the difficulties of actually driving once you're working, right? Once you're actually on the job and, doing your runs, all that stuff. It is a little overwhelming at times. I'm not saying it's going to be like this for everyone. For some people, it's like whatever, even if you are new. For me, it was a little overwhelming because, I'm driving a pretty big vehicle. And so when I was driving my first time, I also had a Moffat on my truck. And so it was pretty scary because sometimes you're going to have to get into some really tight spots and then there's no way for you to like turn around. So you're going to have to back out sometimes into the streets. And the thing that I started doing was I found a camera that I was able to magnetically mount onto my Moffat, and I'm using that as my backup camera. Now, I've gotten good to the point where I don't actually need it. Very rarely I will turn it on, but I will only turn it on if there's a time where I know I'm going to have to constantly get in and get out of my truck. So I just use the camera for that instance. And I will link it down in the description below too. It was like $100, but I'm not gonna lie, it was definitely worth it. It's weatherproof too, super worth it. But yeah, there are times where it's just like really difficult to maneuver around. You have to be very careful. And when you're brand new, you are gonna be pretty nervous, but it's completely normal. For some people, the nervousness can go away in like under a week. For some people, it'll take a couple of months. I'm not gonna lie to you. For me, it took me like 3 or 4 months. But what I did notice is I had to change my mindset in terms of being scared and being super nervous to, okay, I'm gonna conquer this. I'm gonna make sure I need to do what I need to do to make sure I'm safe pre and post trip, making sure I'm getting out of my vehicle, taking my time. I am not gonna let anyone rush me. I'm going to take my time. I don't care who's there. I don't care who's looking. I don't care when or what time they want me to get this delivery done. I will take my time. And that's what I did. I took my time. I thankfully am now pretty good at driving. I'm not going to say I'm the best driver, but I can tell you this. I have been a lot better of a driver than most people that have been driving longer than I have. And that's the other thing too, guys. Over time, you will develop a really good skill of adapting to the areas that you are in, and it's to the point where it's like second nature. Like for me, I am no longer nervous. I'm like super mellowed out. I do not mind driving. I'm just cruising down to the street, going to my next stop. If I see that there's a really tight area, I already know how I'm gonna do it to get it out, whether I'm gonna have to back out. And even if I don't realize it at that very moment, I'll just look around and I'll adapt to that very specific circumstance. And it's not mind wrecking anymore. It's second nature to me now. It's super easy. I'm pretty sure I could drive in any other road need be. But there are very rare moments where it's like, oh crap, how do I get out of here? But it's normal, all right? It's normal. I know people that have been driving for years and they've gotten stuck. They've hit other cars. They've damaged property. I mean, that's just the life that comes with being a truck driver, whether you're holding a class B or a class A. I mean, it's unavoidable, guys. There's a reason why it's so hard to get approved by your insurance or by the company's insurance, right? Because you're out on the road, you're risking your life and you're risking the life of others and other people's property. But hey, that's truck driving for you, right? But like I said, it's not always like that. It's actually really chill once you start getting the hang of everything, getting the hang of your job, how it works. So don't be too nervous. I promise it actually does get better. You're just going to have to stick to it, okay? All right, so now I want to talk about dealing with management and customers. So for the management side of things, look, guys, not all managers are like this, okay? I will say that. Okay, let me start it off with that. But there are some managers that are complete morons. And I mean complete dummies. I have worked for a couple of different people through my life, and man, you are not always, but every now and then you are going to have to stand your ground because the law works differently for you as a truck driver with a CDL license. You legally, I think it also depends on your state, but legally you do have the right to refuse a load or certain types of loads or certain amounts of loads because of the height or the weight or even the width or even just the type of load. Reason being is because some regulations just don't allow it. But the thing is, if you don't stand your ground and managers can tell that they can get away with it, they'll keep pushing you and pushing you and pushing you until you say something. And the problem is, at the end of the day, it doesn't just come down to them getting fined. it also comes down to you possibly losing your license. See, companies have the money to hire and fire all the time, and they have the money to pay for all these fines. The problem is there's only one you, and you only get one license. That's it. So be very, very careful. Look up all the codes and guidelines and regulations in your state, so that way you know when to refuse a load and when not to refuse a load. All right, because you also don't want to be unreasonable. But I am telling you, some managers will push it. Some managers, you will probably have to get into a couple of arguments. You will have to stand your ground. I did not know this when I first started, but I'm telling you, if it wasn't for these other drivers that talked to me and that were really cool with me, I'm telling you, I would not have known any of this. Even though I did take the test on this kind of stuff. But I thought it was kind of different once you were working. Turns out it's not. Now, when it comes to dealing with customers, look, some of these customers will ask you to do certain things for, like, transporting certain stuff. They might say, hey, I need you to move this or move that, or you can't park here, you can't park there, this and that and the other. Look, guys, there have been times during my driving career where I've had customers tell me, hey, man, you got to hurry up. You can't park here, you can't park there. And I'm like, dude, there's literally no other place for me to park. I have to park here. And sometimes they're just being completely unreasonable. You're just going to have to stand your ground with them and tell them, hey, look, I'm not going to be able to move my truck right now. It's going to have to stay here, or you're just going to have to deal with it, or whatever. Just stand your ground, or if you have to, contact your management first and see if they help you out. And if they don't, then you're going to have to do what you got to do at that moment. It's not going to be all the time like that, but every now and then you will get a customer that's just going to get on your nerves, man. It's unavoidable. And I know you're supposed to give excellent customer service, but I mean, dude, to be honest, some of these customers, they'll treat you like crap because they think they'll get away with it. But if you are justified in saying, no, I can't do this, or no, I won't do that, let them know. Stand your ground with these people. Otherwise, they'll keep doing it to you, or they do it with someone else. I've had that happen to me. I've had to tell customers, hey, man, I'm not dropping this load just because you tell me to drop this load. I have to wait for you to give me payment, or I have to wait for this, or I have to wait for that. And they'll tell me, nah, man, I've been a customer for a long time, this and that and the other. I'll tell them, nah, man, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. Call the office, do whatever you have to do, but I am not going to give you your stuff until you pay for it. There's times like that. Sometimes they'll just be rude out of nowhere, so I'll match their energy. And you know what? A lot of the times, they'll quickly calm down. And they'll say, hey, my bad, man. Or, I was just going through some, or whatever the case may be. Or sometimes they won't say anything. Just the next time they'll see you, they're more relaxed. They'll know not to, mess with you so much. It happens. You'd be surprised how a lot of people, both men and women, will relax once you show them you're not some punk. It's just the truth. But it's kind of fun at the same time. I'm not going to lie. It's kind of fun. So, if you're someone that likes crashing out, then, hey, this job might actually be for you. But again, ladies and gents, it's not always like that. Some jobs are more relaxed than others. It just depends on the type of job that you're doing. All right. So this is all allegedly. Okay. I'm just going to say, let me start off with that. This is all allegedly. Some drivers may have allegedly skipped the way stations. Okay, now let me give you some stories that may or may not be real. Okay, allegedly stories. All right, gotta be very careful here. These stories involve certain people that I may or may not know who have told me, hey, in this job they give you a lot of weight. Sometimes you have to take the weight, this and that. And look, the reason why sometimes they say you have to take the load is because they'll just fire you outright. And they'll say, oh, no, just poor work performance, But in reality, they're firing you because you're not willing to take the load illegally. By illegally, I mean like illegal amounts of weight, even though the load might not be too high or too wide. So I've heard people tell me, hey, you're going to have to skip the weigh station, which is pretty illegal. But you'd be surprised how many people allegedly do it. All right. And the reason why is because if you go through the weigh station, they'll sometimes stop you for almost anything. Sometimes. But especially if you're a hazmat driver, the reason why a lot of them will stop you, or you're more prone to be stopped if you're a hazmat driver, is because it's easier for them to get you on something when it comes to the paperwork. So you have to make sure you have your paperwork down. Otherwise, they will more than likely pull you over and fine you with something. Sometimes the fines just go to the companies, but just be very, very careful. And sometimes, allegedly, some managers may infer to skipping said weigh station. So it's up to you if you feel comfortable doing that or not. I'm just telling you that may or may not be part of the job. But again, this is all allegedly, so make sure you get good at knowing when your weigh stations are going to come up or where they come up, the exits that you may or may not need to take before reaching said weigh station. Some people don't even like take the exits before the weigh stations. Some people literally just drive right through them. Like they don't even go right at the weigh station. They'll just go right through it. Right? They won't take that little shortcut to enter the weigh station itself. They'll just drive by. They'll just drive by like as if it was a regular car on the highway. I'm not saying you should do that, but I've seen some people do it and get away with it. Not saying that you should do that. And I'm not saying I have actually seen those people. Again, allegedly. It's all allegedly. But I am saying it may or may not come up. Alright. I'll just leave it at that. Now, lastly, this is very, very important too. If you are someone that's planning on getting some endorsements, I suggest you get them as soon as possible. Reason being is because some companies, for instance, some companies require you to have a hazmat endorsement and have held it for at least 3 years. Just holding it, right? And sometimes they're pretty strict about it. So instead of saying, you know what, I'm going to wait and get some experience first and then I'll get my hazmat, no, don't do that. As soon as you graduate, and if you are planning on driving some hazmat stuff later on down the line, get it. Get all your endorsements. Get everything you need to have just so you can have it, with you for a certain amount of time. And it really works the same way with a CDL license. Some people will ask you before they hire you, they say, hey, do you have any driving experience, driving some, CDL based vehicles? And if you say, no, I don't, sometimes they'll ask you, how long have you been holding onto that license for? Well, I don't know, maybe a month or two. Sometimes they won't hire you because will also verify that. But if you held on to your CDL for like 6 months to a year, they'll say, okay, well, even though you don't have driving experience, you at least have been holding on to said CDL license for, a year or 6 months or whatever. And sometimes they might count that as experience. I don't know. But just, know that if you are planning on getting your endorsements, get them all as fast as you can. All right. And again, you can use the website that I'll be linking in the description down below. So that way you can also practice and study for your exams. But don't get discouraged either. They're pretty difficult. Not all of them are, but some can be pretty difficult. For me, the toughest one wasn't even the hazmat. It was the tankers, surprisingly. But again, just study up, guys. Study up and pray to God. Just study up and pray to God. All right, guys. That's all I have for you. I appreciate you taking the time looking into this video. If you have any more questions on this topic, please let me know down in the comment section below. I'll do my best to answer. But again, don't get discouraged, y'all. I know this might sound pretty discouraging, but I promise you, it's a great career. It's definitely worth getting into it. There's still a good bit of opportunity, whether you're new, fresh out of school, with a Class B or a Class A. I promise you will not regret it. Other than that, that's all I have for you. Peace.